Hello. Welcome back to another edition of my podcast just for today. I was scrambling this morning when I was thinking about recording this episode. What do I want to talk about? What am I going to enlighten you with this week? And most weeks I find it really easy to think about a subject because something will pop into my head. I'm extremely intuitively guided. So something will go, that's perfect. That's it. Or I'm prompted by something someone says in my WhatsApp group. And this week it's just been very quiet in my head in terms of ideas and creating new things. And that's not an alien feeling to me because 1 week of my cycle, I feel like this. I have I have a lack of drive, a lack of creativity. My body is lacking energy. It's PMT. Right, and I don't want to ride on that, the way society talks about PMT and the way it is derogatory towards women. But I am going to say that PMT for me is intensified, shall we say, as I have got older. And there's many discussions I have with women in my network about this. And we're all of a very similar age, we're all experiencing similar things. And this is a challenge for me. It's a challenge and it's a gift. And let me explain why. As we get older and we get more comfortable in our skin, we get to know ourselves on a much deeper level. We get to understand what our body needs. We start to hear the cues from our body, what it likes, what it doesn't like. And I think that's a beautiful gift. But as I say, everything that comes with lightness comes with some darkness attached to it as well. And it means that we have to pivot, we have to move through that new phase of womanhood that we're experiencing. And for me, there's been a resistance to that. There's been a resistance for a while now to my changing body and my changing mind. And that resistance is, it's not fair. Why can't I eat the things I used to want to eat? Why can't I do the things I wanted to do? Why is my head such hard work at times? And when I'm in this phase, and it really is around 5 to 7 days in my cycle, the same time every month, all of my insecurities, all of my fears are supersized. They become larger. It's almost like the drop in progesterone, I think I've got that right, what's happening, almost feeds the fears and the insecurities and the self-doubts that I have. It's like a drip feed effect, and they come to the fore and they go, hello, here we go, this is our time. This is our time when we tell her, really, you're not good enough. Who wants to listen to you? Go get a proper job, Steph. All of that stuff comes up to the fore and gets really, really loud. Now I know, experience tells me now, that in a few days' time it's going to pass. Like a storm, this too shall pass. I know that, so now I'm really kind and compassionate with myself. But it's still a challenge for me. And I wanted to share with you this week how much of a challenge it is for me, because I almost want to give you permission, along with myself, that it's okay that we feel the way we feel during this time. So you may or you may not have known that I was going to be rolling out Pause and Reconnect online this week. And it was going to be starting on Friday. So as you're listening to this is last week. And the final week of rollout of a workshop, if you're in business for yourself, you will know the final week is where we talk about it a lot more and we email out to our audience a lot more about it. And I have been finding this an extreme challenge to find the creativity, to find the motivation to do this. And I was talking this through with Shelley, my business coach, and I just said, I don't have the resources. And yesterday I threw the towel in. Yesterday I just thought, no, I can't do this. And what we've recognised and what I'm adjusting and how I'm going to pivot with this is I am going to adjust how I offer my services going forward in alignment with my cycle. I want to always be the best version of myself for my clients and when I'm offering a service. So that means that I have to look after myself in order to be able to do that. Now, going back to 2010, this is where I first began this explorative journey with my cycle. And this is something that we're just not taught as females. We understand, we're taught in school, and again, I'm not in school anymore. I don't have children that are in school anymore, and I have boys, so I don't know what girls are being taught in schools anymore. But my experience is girls went one way, boys went the other, and girls were spoken about periods and managing them and the inconvenience of them and the products that we can use to support ourselves as we experience that loss, that blood loss. No talk about hormones, no talk about feelings, none of it. No talk about what's actually happening, what your cycle does on the 28 to 30 day, whatever yours is. No talk about why it does what it does and how it does what it does and how you might feel as a result of what it's doing. For me, my experience was it's a massive inconvenience. Here's how we manage it. And then we get the contradictory stuff that we see on TV where there's a woman abseiling down a cliff in white jeans or white shorts. You can do it all. You can have it all. Even when you have your period, you can still do it all and be all. And actually that messaging is so wrong and contradictory to actually what our body's doing. So when I came into the world of doulaing, I read a book by Lisa Lister called Code Red. And it was like an awakening for me about the female cycle. And the intention behind the book for her was to show women in business how to harness the power of your cycle and work with it rather than fight against it. Now, I was a woman in business, that's how I read that book. It might not have actually been intended for just for women in business. So if you're listening to this, I wholeheartedly recommend this book, because never had I experienced somebody talk about the female cycle in this way. And it opened my eyes to understanding myself and my hormones and everything better, so I could stop fighting with myself. Now, it wasn't an overnight process. I continued to battle with myself, but what I did start to do was track my cycle and start to know what was happening and when it was happening. Because what that gives you is knowledge is power, right? What that gives you, it arms you with the tools to say, hang on a minute, I know why I'm feeling all of these insecurities this week, and I know this storm will pass, and I'm going to work with it, and I'm going to allow myself to feel, and I'm going to reward myself with downtime, and I'm going to nurture myself. And this has been a very steady, slow process for me. Like I said, I read this book first around probably 2010, 2011. And that's where the tracking began. And that's when I learned about the female cycle being like the seasons of the year: autumn, winter, spring and summer, and how we will feel in comparison to that. So right now, as I record this, I am in autumn, very close to transitioning into winter. Autumn being the PMT, winter being the bleed phase. Then we move into spring, where we're coming back to life, where our energy is being restored, where we feel better in our skin. And summer is that phase of ovulation. And we can relate to how we feel in the summer as well. You know, when, as you know, in the UK, we experience 4 seasons, so we know how we transition. And currently it's 1st of February as I'm recording this, and we are still in winter, but there's a little springness coming. The sun's shining today. We're approaching now. We're coming out of the trenches of winter. The days are getting a little bit lighter, so we're starting to feel like we're coming out of that phase. And that's what I learned right back way then, that this is how the female cycle looks and how we can work with it. So in those times, those autumn and winter times, that's not where we make big decisions. That's not where we take big leaps of faith. That's not possibly where you run a workshop where you're holding space for 60 women or 3 women or whatever, or you're going to change your job. You're not going to make that decision in that week because you may feel very different the week after. You may be more subjective, less emotional. So So a big, I'm still learning this. I'm now about to move into the area of nutrition now to work with my body, because the ever-changing body that I'm experiencing now needs different from me. I became a vegetarian 2.5 years ago. That's definitely impacted. So now I want to understand how I can eat to harness the power of my cycle as well. What I can do to nurture myself at these times where my insecurities, where that noise does get that little bit louder. What can I do to help this process? And I'm also really learning with those boundaries to say no more during those times. It's not necessarily practical that you take a week off of work, because we can't. I can't. You probably can't. But we can do little things to help ourselves through this transitional phase. We can eat certain foods. We can allow ourselves apply some self-care in the evenings or in the mornings or at the weekends. But we can just be aware it's happening, and the awareness can sometimes be enough that we cut ourselves a little bit of slack, that we're kinder and more compassionate with ourselves. And those fears and those insecurities that come up and get really, really loud during those times, we work with them. As you know, I'm a big advocate for working and leaning into emotions and not suppressing them. In past times, this noise would have come up. I would have gone to battle with, you're not good enough and all that. Yes, I am. And here I am. And then I would have just depleted myself even further and pushed myself through. Come on, keep going. Only for a day or so later to be completely floored, because my body's going, absolutely not. Steph, you are absolutely not going to keep powering through this. We are at a low ebb. We need you to nurture us. We're going to slow you right down. There's cultures across the world that retreat to red tents and actually go off, and as females they nurture each other through these times, because it's an energetic and an emotional challenge for us as females. We are cyclical beings. Our bodies are not built for 9 to 5, the masculine way of moving through our working world. Our bodies are not equipped for that. Our bodies are not weak, they are extremely powerful. But to have that power, we need to come back and plug ourselves in like we would our phone and recharge and re-energize to then propel ourselves forward. So this week I threw in the towel and I said, you know what? I can't do that this week. And going forward, I'm not going to do that in this week. Going forward, I'm going to map out now my entire cycle for the year and look at what I want to implement in those times. And I may still implement, but I'm going to be more self-aware, more kind, and more compassionate, and more boundaried during those times. So I wanted to share with you what's been going on for me as well, because transparency and vulnerability is really important to me. I'm sure you see on the socials, you will compare yourself to others and you'll look at other females and think, well, how does she do it? Why am I not able to achieve this? She's able to achieve that. And I'm going to break down, because this noise goes on in my head as well. I am this week, making the decision that enough's enough. I will not keep pushing myself in the way that I have been. And I am going to be even more intentional now with my cycle and the way I look after myself going forward. So just for today, I would love you, if you don't track, I would love you to start tracking your cycle, just to begin that process of self-awareness. You will be amazed how much stuff starts to make sense. Oh my goodness, that's why that. When you start to track your cycle. There are plenty of apps online that you can do this for free. You can get a normal paper diary and start making a note and just noting how you feel each day. And then you can start to see that pattern. You can start to notice the low ebbs and the high ebbs as well. I would love you to start tracking. And if you do track your cycle and you do have this level of awareness, just for today, what can you do that goes even deeper with this, where you can start to think about nurturing yourself on a deeper level? Each time we do something for ourselves, we get to know ourselves just that little bit more better. And as you know, I'm a big advocate for self-connection, reconnecting, because we become so disconnected to who we are because of everything that's going on around us, society, our lifetime. We become disconnected to ourselves. And when we plug ourselves back in and give ourselves space to really recharge, that feeling of self-connection becomes our superpower. I don't believe everything that's happening in my body is a burden. I don't believe it's a burden. Some days it feels heavier than others, but it's a sense of power that we actually have, and we just have to learn to evolve and transition through it. And that can be tricky. And last week's episode was all around transitioning in motherhood and in womanhood. This is the next phase for me. But even if you're not in the same phase as me of perimenopause, you're still a cyclical being. Getting to know your cycle and how you ebb and flow will never be a decision that you regret. I can promise you that. So, I would love to support you through these phases. I would love to help you reconnect to all that you already are and all that you desire to be. And I do this in many ways. Come and join my WhatsApp group to find out more. Come and follow me on the socials to find out more. My online Pause and Reconnect is coming in February. It's going to be reset and repurposed. I didn't follow it through this week because I didn't have the energy to do that, and I have gifted myself that today. It is coming though, and it is coming in February. So keep an eye on my socials, and if you want to sign up to my emails, which everybody gets the information first that sign up to my emails, I've popped a link to that in the show notes as well. But until next time, lovely people, take care of yourself.